Welcome to the Fierce Goddess Collective. From our hearts to yours, we share the gifts of beautiful goddesses to the world.
Welcome, beautiful Kia, to our glorious Fierce Goddess Collective podcast. It is a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me. I've been very much looking forward to hanging out with you both and getting to spend some time with you.
Yay! Yeah, absolutely. I have the honor of introducing you and all the beautiful work that you do and have created and the magic that you bring to the world. You are a spiritual director and you work in that story creation of vulnerable archetypes. That is your passion, and how you bring that into this world, how you represent this through your visual representations, through your photo shoots, through your one-on-one sessions. Like, that is your magic and your creations.
Thank you. Wow. I do love what I do.
It's a very special honoring and offering that you share with people. Yes, and yeah, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I can't wait to hear more.
Can't wait to share more.
Let me kick it off. So, how would you describe yourself apart from what we've just heard? And what is it that you do in everyday life?
So I would definitely describe myself as being vulnerably visible and archetypal storyteller. And how that shows up in my everyday life is usually by me sharing, some really intimate and vulnerable parts of my life, usually the parts that I think people would feel a little bit uncomfortable about sharing. At the moment, I've been speaking a lot about my mental health, which has been it's been a lifelong experience, but it's really only been in the last year or so that it's come to the forefront of what I need to speak about and what I am getting medicine in sharing about. And, part of that is taking people along the journey with me. So about a year ago, it all really kicked off when my kuro, my grandfather, passed away. And there was a consecutive amount of events that really kind of steamrolled me into a bit of a relapse with my mental health. I have a chronic illness that I've always known about, but it has been somewhat stable for the last few years. And then coming with the death of my grandfather, losing my home, losing most of my belongings in the Queensland floods, there was just a huge relapse that I've kind of been initiated into. And it felt really important for me to be vulnerable and visible with that. One, because that's just always been my medicine. I've always been that oversharer who airs their laundry on Facebook or something, often in a rather toxic way that was quite harmful to myself and others. But for me, that was always a way of getting things that were wreaking havoc internally out of my body. It was a very visceral, cathartic way of processing parts of my human experience. And it feels important to me because, one, there's a huge stigma around mental health. There's this idea that's been painted so beautifully in the films that we watch where, someone who has mental health is dangerous, is a serial killer, is, all of these different depictions that we see. And there's not a lot of influence where someone living with a chronic mental illness is actually being impactful or influential in a positive way. We don't see a lot of that. And yet there's so many people who do have chronic mental illness and are making a huge difference in the world because of and despite of, both and. So for me, it feels like important because it's a way of me to lead from my humanity and a way to demonstrate that it's safe to be human. I think in the spiritual world, specifically in the spiritual online space, there's this huge narrative that tells us that we have to be good vibes all the time, love and light, and it really bypasses that. Actually, there's a huge other part of our human experience that isn't all love and light, that isn't all high vibe. So especially being someone as serving as a spiritual director, for me, it's important to be a full expression and representation of being a fully human spiritual director. And yeah, vulnerable visibility is how I lead in that way. And also having that capacity, like you mentioned, Tosca, to be able to zoom out and look at it archetypally, and to be able to talk about it in a way that is both speaking to that human experience on a individual level, but also zooming out on what that looks like collectively, and how the collective consciousness and social constructs, like how it all contributes and feeds into that, which is something that I really quite enjoy doing and getting crafty with. So yeah.
That's great, because a lot of people don't validate the fact that you actually can be down.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. And because I know what you mean, when I'm in this space as well, people are like, raise your vibration, well, yeah, that's great. But sometimes I just want to sit there and be, wallowing in my self-pity.
Yes,
and then I will pick myself up. But
that's right.
That's great validation. Great.
Yeah. I think that's part of, it's going the opposite end of bypassing these experiences that we have, which will often perpetuate them. And as long as we're saying, oh my gosh, it's not safe for me to be in this low vibe because I'm not going to be able to manifest.
Yeah.
It just kind of makes that internal chaos exasperated. Whereas if we just actually acknowledged it, and acknowledgement is such a big piece, and the starting point of them being able to find acceptance of whatever it is that we're feeling, it's almost instantly that then that rigidity or that density begins to dissipate. If we're talking in the language of vibration, those heavier vibrations will dissipate simply because we've had the humility and grace enough to say, hey, you're real, you're there, I can feel that there's some heaviness here, and really giving it a space of honor. And in doing so, I think that just initiates the process of it being able to untangle and dissipate, and in a very safe and what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's maybe not instant, but it certainly starts that process of it being able to ease. So yeah, thank you for adding to that.
That was great.
Beautiful. So how do you support women?
With vulnerable visibility. So at the moment, because I'm in this phase of recovery, what I'm calling it, I've really slowed my forward-facing service down so that it is safe for my own recovery, as well as for the people that I work with. But when I have got a client I see every month, and what we're really working on, and how vulnerability comes into the piece in the way that we work together, is we're bringing into the spotlight the things that she wants to change, right? Usually when we're in this state of, like, there's parts of my behavior, there's patterns of behavior that keep on happening, that keep on cycling, and I want them to change, and I can't change them, and we can get really stuck there, and it can become, this collapsing in on ourselves, and which looks like a bit of mental chaos and a lot of anxiety and overwhelm. And so how vulnerability comes into the piece with that is like, hey, let's have a look at these patterns and see if we can find space to love them today. Is there a capacity, even if it's only, even if there's mostly shame attached to these experiences, or guilt, or, whatever that denser sort of vibration or emotion is there space to alleviate some of that suffering today by finding ways to give that some love? And so what we're doing is we're really allowing these vulnerable emotions to be seen, and we're allowing them to be visible in front of the person that I'm serving, so that they can then, again, much like we're talking about, allow those experiences to slowly unravel and dissipate. And it's been a really beautiful exploration, specifically with this client who I've been working with for the last few months now, where it is such a slow and gentle process, which I think speaks volumes to the way that I had previously worked with people, where it's like we come into these experiences, we come into, especially doing spiritual or energy work, and we want it to be fixed straight away. But that's not real life and it's not sustainable. And I think it's that process of just being really slow and gentle that allows that sustainable change. And most of the time it's really just seeing, this is a part of who I am. Do I have space to love that today? Like, I'm obsessed with love thy shadow. This is exactly what vulnerable visibility is looking at the parts of ourselves and learning how to increase our capacity to love and accept all of our parts.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We're complex buggers, aren't we?
We are. And we're so fascinating. Like, I'm not even a little bit obsessed. I'm largely obsessed with how complex and nuanced we are. And, you know, there's no one of us who are the same, and yet we're all the same. Another beautiful paradox of our reality.
It's just weird, isn't it? It's just weird. All right, so that leads me to the second one. My second question: what is it that you would love to do that would bring you joy, or you do that brings you joy?
Oh my gosh, so many things. You can't, like, this is where my visionary is like, oh my God, all of the things. There's one. Okay, let's talk to the big vision first. Because, you know, there's a vision. Tosca would be familiar with this when we did the spiritual directorship together. You know, one of the big visions that I've always get so excited about is, you know, I see this, whether it's a school or like a organization where people who perhaps are experiencing, you know, different expressions of mental health, or even invisible illness, doesn't even have to be invisible, but where they come together and put together like performances, like whether it be a dance or a play, or, you know, they're channeling their experience through creative expression. Like, that for me is, you know, where I would love to go to. And I'm taking a few steps towards that in more studies. I'm starting my psychology degree next month, which I'm very excited about. And the way that this bigger vision looks for me is having a not-for-profit organization that does support people to recover and to find that self-acceptance and self-esteem through creative expression.
Amazing.
In the closer term vision of that, I feel like that's my photo shoots embodied. I've got one coming up in December, which I'm super excited about. And basically what we're doing here again is vulnerable visibility. It's archetypal storytelling, where we're looking at shadow archetypes is this theme. We're looking at parts of our unconscious or conscious, we may be very well, of these patterns that are playing out in our lives, and really giving them the space of honor to be seen. And we do that with body paint, and I've got a beautiful collaborator, Fire Creations, who makes these gorgeous headpieces. You can see one kind of behind.
Yeah.
And we do a photo shoot, and the photo shoot isn't the only part of the experience. We also go on a couple of journeys to meet with these shadow archetypes, to really see how they're playing out in our lives, what they're doing. There's a bit of psychoeducation as to why this matters, why we're looking at our unconscious, and what happens when we're able to, you know, see the science of why they're there and what they're doing and how they're playing out, and what we can do with that, what that information, how that can empower us and you know, give us self-esteem to show up in our world exactly as we are, shadows and all. So yeah, that's something that really brings me joy, and I hope brings people joy who come and experience that too.
Sounds fabulous.
And I can vouch for it, because I've already done a photo shoot with you and it did bring lots of joy. Absolutely.
It was so much fun. Oh my, I can't wait. The last couple have been cancelled because of COVID. So it's excited that it's finally happening, and yeah, it feels really good.
Awesome. So what are some of Kia's self-care and self-love practices?
Movement. Yeah, I have to move. And I really always know when I'm kind of, especially with having a chronic illness, when I'm really low, that's when I don't want to move. And sometimes that means that I can only move for 5 minutes, and I have to give myself grace enough, like, to do that and be enough. So I'm currently almost finished a 200-hour aerial yoga therapeutics course, which is something that I'm really excited to integrate into my work as a spiritual director as well. But that movement piece is so big, right? Like I don't know, I feel like a lot of the times, and especially now, where a lot of my experience, I'm paying more attention to the physiological senses rather than the mental, and listening to what my body needs, and getting into the hammock provides so much intel for me. It gives me, like, on a sensory basis, it's really supportive of my nervous system. Just cocooning and wrapping myself in it is just like, oh, everything just sort of melts out and it feels really good. But also helping me to build more stability, which is something that I'm actively seeking right now, is that stability in the outer world, but also in the inner world, that is my body. And that movement piece is huge. And sometimes that movement is just intuitive and just, free flowing, and putting some music on. And that's probably my number one way to love myself at the moment.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
And it brings in all that somatic embodiment, that feeling, sensing, and listening and acknowledging the language of your body and the language of your soul.
Yeah, absolutely. And even learning about the science of that has been really cool too.
Yes.
Like learning about how, especially when using it as a therapeutic sort of modality, how it can help someone who might be experiencing some psychological distress to get inside their body again, and recognizing where they are inside of time and space. Because if they've been dissociated, they might be somewhere else. And Absolutely. Like if there's pain in the body, they might have tapped out because they don't want to feel that pain or acknowledge that pain. So the movement within the hammock offers that opportunity to come back inside of your body, to acknowledge that maybe there is some pain, and that's okay. And where is that pain? And what can we do to bring more stability and mobility to that area to alleviate that pain? So it's been really interesting, actually, to sort of bring that even more into my practice, coming out of the deep work that we've done in the spiritual directorship. For me, bringing the body into the piece was a huge part of my integration. So yeah, it's been really profound, actually, to learn more about it.
Sounds like it. Absolutely.
So what's your biggest learning so far, Kia? You've done so much learning, still continuing on, but can you pinpoint one? Or
I guess the biggest lesson for me at the moment is integration is a slow process. Right. Integration has been my theme for this year. Every year I give myself a theme, and integration has been the theme. And part of that integration is going slow. And that's been really this is whole entire neural networks that I'm learning for me to be able to integrate. Yes. Because I'm like, I remember going through my training with the Institute for Intuitive Intelligence when I was doing the intuitive trainer program. And, some of the feedback was learn to walk before you run. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm already past the finish line. Like, you guys need to catch up. So yeah, in actual fact, it's been slowing right down. And I think even the archetypal experience of having this relapse has really supported me to slow right down. Like nothing within my system is allowing me to go any faster than a crawl right now. But it's been just, that's for me, it feels sustainable. Like this is a new pace and a new way of being that, it is. It's been a huge lesson. I'm still learning.
Wow. It's so divine. And the journey of all of that. And what I'm getting, and this is leading us to our next sort of question point, is this is being led, I'm feeling, not only by your body, but by your intuition.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's been a real landing for me. That's been a real huge piece in this integration, where, even when my mood is low or my cognition is low, my intuition is saying, what does my body right now need? And it feels like I'm in this phase of biological and physiological intuition, where I'm like that real embodied intuition, somatic intuition, whatever you want to call that. Like it's my body is the informer. My body is the whisper that's saying, okay, you need to rest, or okay, you've got, this is happening for you. And it's been a real journey of trusting that. Because I think for the most part, the way that my intuition has always guided me has been very cosmic. It's been very, it's been very spiritual, whereas this feels very physical. And I think that's part of where my intuition has been guiding me the last few months, even the last year, is as much as we are energy first, physical second, we are experiencing this reality physical first. And that's where it's almost like a beautiful paradox, where that physical sensation, that physical intuition is saying, okay, so what's deeper than that? And that's when we go and look at the energy and inform it. So it's been a very interesting exploration of intuition and how I'm being guided by my intuition. And right now it's all very, very physiological intuition. Just super interesting.
Very, very, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to go off on a different tangent now.
Cool.
Do you have a favorite goddess, and why?
I have a couple of different favorite goddesses, and I feel like they both are within the death archetype. We've got Kali Ma, who I really love. She's that initiator of death, if you will. She's that, she's the destructor who burns down anything that's no longer sustainable. But I also really love and probably work more consciously with Hecate, who I feel is more like that guide through death. She's that goddess who, you've maybe Kali Ma has come in and rained down her fire and burned everything to the ground, and you're left like, oh, am I? And then Hecate is like, here, darling, we're at the crossroads now. And she's that guide, the guide through the death phase. Both have very big places, especially in the last 12 months. I feel like they've been very present in my physical experience. And there's just so much in them. I've constantly come back to them.
That's great. That's my goddess. Hecate is my goddess.
There you go. Yeah.
As soon as you said that, I was like, yay.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, I would love to have. I've got one black dog at the moment. Her name is Shadow. But I would like to have 2 more, because Hecate had 3 dogs.
You got
That's the only reason. That's the only reason I want lots of dogs.
Perfect. So, dear glorious sister, what are you celebrating at the moment?
I am celebrating, I don't know, I feel like something that I feel like I should be celebrating is my full humanness and being willing to be fully expressed in my humanness. I don't know why, but that just feels like, it feels, again, coming, Tosca, you know me so well. I think coming from being this cosmic visionary who's, can so easily tap into the biggest vision effortlessly, and then really coming down into really grounding that and into a human expression. Like, that feels so big for me. And I feel like that's a big celebration point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's phenomenal. That's just happy.
I called my journey with the visionary, the manic visionary to the pragmatic visionary.
I love it.
That's so good. That is so good.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Just beautiful. Tosca, you can finish off. I think I get the feeling I just need you to do it.
Absolutely. No worries. So from our hearts to yours, Kia, we would like to say our sincere gratitude and thankfulness to you. It has been an absolute magical conversation. It has inspired us. It has delighted us. We've learnt from you, beautiful spiritual director, today. So May you be happy. May you always be well. And may you know you are always loved, dear goddess.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for having me here. Yeah, it's been an absolute privilege, and yeah, it's been a real joy to get to come and share this space with you. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, you're welcome. It was lovely to meet you.
Yes, you too. I'll keep following you around on the interwebs.
Thanks, Tia.
Thank you.
Dear goddesses, if you love this Fierce Goddess Collective podcast, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
And if you want some more information on our special guest today, all the links can be found down below. And remember, goddesses, stay fierce.